Yep.
All right, we are live now. So, hey everybody, welcome to the Gaming Perspective, episode 15. So we've got our great normal cast with us. So I'll start off the introductions. The editor for the Inner Circle Games Network, Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Hey everybody, sorry we're late. We're here now. Let's get going.
And a writer for the Inner Circle Games Network, Jared. Keep wanting to say Rage. God damn it.
I know, it just sticks in your tongue, doesn't it? Welcome everybody. But let's get going. We're living late.
And from Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, Mr. Eric Jackson.
What is going on, everybody? I'm so happy to be back. Hated the fact that I missed last week. Missed talking to you guys, but yeah, let's go.
All right. So, well, before we dive into our main topic this evening, Mr. Eric Jackson has his game pick of the week. So I'll let you take this over.
All right. Actually, if you allow me, I have like sort of two recommendations, mainly because they're kind of small segmented games in a way.
Okay.
And one of them's out of the wheelhouse. So I don't play many mobile games. I think I tweeted this the other day, if at all. It's just not. I used to, like when we first got these smartphones and it was like, everybody was app crazy. But every now and again, one will jump out and kind of just stick. And actually the other day, my daughter was going through my phone and she found this game. And I was like, you have really good taste. You're just like your dad. But this game is Monument Valley.
Oh, it's a good game.
It is, yeah. And even now, she found this game about a week and a half ago. And even now, when she grabs my phone, she says, Daddy, can we play that game with the little character with the cone head? I'm like, cool, let's go. And I can't recommend this game enough. It's a puzzle game developed by Us2 Games Limited. And it's essentially geometric. It's very minimalistic in its approach, geometric shape puzzle game. And yeah, honestly, I can't recommend it enough. Definitely check it out. It's on iOS, Android, and Windows Phone, actually. And they just actually came out with Monument Valley 2, I found out recently, so definitely have to check that out. And then my second recommendation, Late Shift. I don't know if you guys have played that at all.
I've heard about it, but I never actually got a chance to play it. It just came in Game Pass, I think.
Yes, it is in Game Pass. I played it a couple of weeks ago. Full motion video game, and that one is developed by Control Movie, and it's completely that. It's a full motion game, but it has multiple outcomes, like multiple endings that you can go through.
Mm-hmm.
And the story is actually really good. Some of these, you get these full motion video games, and they're usually just kind of throw away, whatever, And I'm recommending it not as a game, but just as a fun thing that you can kind of, hey, one night I have an hour to spare, because you can literally run through one of the scenarios in an hour.
Okay.
And for those achievement hunters, trophy hunters, it's easy achievements and trophies. But yeah, I definitely recommend that game. Give that one a look.
Nice.
Sweet.
So those are my recommendations.
Sweet. All right. Looks like Nick had to walk away there for a little bit. So why don't we get diving into our topic for the night? Shall we?
Why don't we actually wait for Nick to get back before we dive into the topic? What have you guys been playing aside from Eric's game recommendations? Obviously.
If no one's been following me on Twitter, well, it's been a lot of Hellblade recently. I finally finished that game, got the full 1,000 score out of it, and after the first time of attempting to try and get all the lore stones without missing one, I'm very happy to have that knocked off my list finally.
Yeah, those lore stones are pretty frustrating. I remember telling Eric about the first time I played, I just missed the very first one. And because this was back when it was just on PS4 and Steam. And so as I'm collecting them all, and I see all the remaining runes are lighting up except for that one. And I'm like, that better not mean what I think it means. Because there's no chapter select. I love Hellblade, but that is one issue I do have with it. There's no chapter select.
Same
you have
here.
to restart the whole game, go right back to where, and it was frustrating because one was short, I think about 2 hours in the first time around. The other one my third playthrough. It was shortly after that one. I don't know why I missed it, but I guess it took the wrong turn and I missed it on the guide or for some reason, and I had to play it over again. This time, I finally made sure I got them all. I got them all. Thankfully, this time around, though, you don't have to get them all over again. You just have to go back to the spot that you were at and just start over.
And like Sam said, the lack of the chapter select sucks because if there's one that happens to be very at the end, you're like, I gotta. Not that Hellblade is the worst game to kind of go through, but it is very much a game that's like once you kind of go through it, you need a little break from it because it is.
It's a little taxing, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
It is, and you can't skip the cutscenes or anything like that. You can't really skip much. You kind of just have to sit there. Okay, I'm through all this over again.
Yeah, and how about me going through it on PS4? I still missed one playing through it on Xbox, so I didn't get the 1,000 gamer score.
So now you're going, is it worth it? Is it worth it? It's a 100G achievement.
Right. It will be. It will be. When we come up to maybe doing like another gamer score run or something like that. And just for the OCD factor, it's gonna happen on both. I'm gonna get that platinum. I'm gonna go back through it on both platforms. Like again, I just said I needed that break from it.
Yeah, same. I still I don't have the platinum. I did get the full 1,000 because I made sure not to miss that lore stone when I got it on Xbox. But I am still missing the platinum, and I'm telling myself I am going to get it. It's just I played the game twice very recently, so I'd like to take a little bit of a break.
Yeah, definitely. You have to give yourself time in between because sometimes it's a great game. The story's fantastic. The of course audio quality and the visuals are just insane. But it's so dark and gritty and taxing on your mind sometimes, especially when you're playing for long lengths. You go, okay, I just need to stop and step back because this is just whoa. It's just very heavy sometimes.
Absolutely.
Well, Eric, what else have you been playing?
Let's see. I went back last week and jumped back into Tomb Raider.
Oh, okay. All right. The first one, the reboot.
Actually, no. I'm sorry. I should be more specific. Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Okay. Cool.
Which playing through going back to that, I said, you know what? I have not played the reboot in a while, so I finally loaded that up, and I'm going to play through that at some point here. But no, went back into Rise, and what's funny about that game, I don't know when was the last time you guys played it. You literally have to remember. It's like you have to go, okay, how do I do this control? Because after going through God of War, going through all these different games, it's like, okay.
All these third-person cinematic games together, and they all have roles. It's like I do want to do that, but when I do that, I'm just gonna go back through at the beginning and play the first one again. Do that to prepare for Shadow when it comes out later. This year.
And that's kind of why I said, you know what, I'm gonna finally go and play the Baba Yaga DLC and play the Croft Manor stuff because I've been sitting on that for a while, the anniversary stuff, and and getting ready for Shadow, which is why I said I'm gonna do another playthrough of the reboot eventually too. But yeah, it was trying to remember how to craft. So when I got back in there, I immediately ran into some of the mercenaries walking around and had to kind of run because I was hitting the wrong things. Like I was trying to be stealthy and hit them with the poison arrow. I ended up setting off the grenade arrow. I was like, oops. Trying to remember how to craft on the fly, running. I was like, okay. But eventually it all started coming back. So yeah, jumped into the Baba Yaga stuff, which was really cool. And now I didn't hear a lot of people talk about the Croft Manor stuff. It was like a complete departure from whatever the other parts of the game is. It's just literally exploration, and you're really getting backstory and stuff like that. There's no combat.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I remember reading about it, but I never actually did that.
Yeah. Rare achievements galore. They were popping. Yeah, that whole thing, both Baba Yaga and the Croft Manor stuff was all rare achievement stuff. Popping. There's just something about that sound when it pops.
Rare achievement sounds are the best sounds.
Ooh.
That's how I feel when I play Rare Replay.
Yeah, seriously. What does that thing have? 6,000 gamer scores?
Yeah. 6,000 gamer score. Eight people have the full completions for it.
Whoa. Holy crap!
Yeah, wow.
Well, you just gotta beat Battletoads 3 times with 3 different characters for 110 gamer score achievement.
Wow.
So, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I'll ever. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever have 100% completion in Rare Replay.
I'm not going to commit to that. No, I'm not going to.
I've started the commitment.
You fool! You weak-minded fool.
I've got 3 of the games out of the 30 100%ed now. So,
which ones?
I've got Viva Pinata and I think I've got Cameo almost done, except for the co-op achievements.
Okay.
And I got I finished off Conquer, which was fantastic. Nice. That was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, see, those feel like the cream. You might hit a little bit of a roadblock when you get back to some of that original Rare stuff.
Yeah, play those games. Like those are ones that those would be pretty easy to max out on their own. No offense, Nick. But
no, definitely no offense.
But talk to us when you get to Battletoads, okay?
Yeah.
But
I did 100% Tomb Raider, so I got all that.
Nice.
All that stuff, which felt really good. 100% of the Croft Manor, 100% of the Baba Yaga stuff. So that was cool. And other than that, I'm back with my man Geralt. We're doing it. There will be no distractions.
Nice.
We're doing it, man.
I see you on there. I see you on there every now and again. I'll pop on Xbox.
This is the time to do it, man. Before the school year starts up again. I'm diving in. So I think I'm right at the end of the original story. Getting all the peeps together.
Right.
So I'm at that part, and then from there I'll jump into the DLCs. But oh man, Dude, Witcher 3.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's man. I am doing another playthrough right now, but it's a casual playthrough. It's not like I'm not straining myself. I'm just playing a bit here, playing a bit there. But it's so freaking good.
Yeah. Are you doing that new Game Plus?
When eventually, once because I started a new playthrough altogether.
Oh, everything.
New run, but then after this one, I'll do New Game Plus.
Okay. I was curious on that, but yeah, man, it's just you can just get lost in that world.
It's everything. It's the world. You've got the characters, and despite John screaming somewhere out there when I say this, the combat as well. It's just
I like the combat. I don't know what people are talking about, man. I like it.
You get going in there. It's a dance of death. I love it. Well, really quick, since Nick's back and we were just distracting from the main topic while we wait on him, I'll just run really quick. I've actually replayed. I don't have the platinum for that. It might be a good idea to do that. So. Okay. Well, hold on. So the problem is I didn't remember those multiplayer achievements. And that just put a damper on things, shall we say. The whole, you have to get 87 perfect wins for each faction for 2 trophies. It's like,
dude, I hate it. I don't know if games are still really like locking into that, but there was that time period where a lot of achievements and a lot of trophies were tied to multiplayer.
There was a time. Fortunately, it seems like that's not the case anymore. Like it is, but only for the multiplayer-centric games. Like, of course, something like Sea of Thieves or whatever might have multiplayer-based achievements, but that's because it's a multiplayer game first and foremost. Most games with multiplayer modes don't seem to be doing it. I hate the fact that they tied the platinum to the multiplayer here. But I replayed the game on Survivor, and I got a bunch of trophies there, so that was really cool.
Nice.
Love that game. My mom is actually playing it right now for the first time. She's loving it. She's actually kind of scaring me, if I'm being perfectly honest, the way she's rolling through. Okay, guys, I didn't think it was possible to punch clickers to death.
You told me that the other day, man. I was like, what? I didn't know that was possible, and I never had the balls to try it.
No, I didn't try it, and I'm pretty sure I remember like the clickers just killing you instantly whenever they grab you, but she has punched 2 clickers to death. So wow. I don't know what's going on, and she's getting like ruthlessly efficient, like snapping off revolver headshots and just tossing grenades, the nail bombs, and turning guys into mulch. I'm like, okay, all right, this is a thing. This is pretty cool to watch.
Man, that sounds like my mom when we used to play Mario Kart. Good God, that was a violent event.
I feel like it's just a tad different, though. I'll be perfectly honest. I feel like there's a bit of a gulf there between Mario Kart and Last of Us, but so that's been awesome playing that and helping her through that. Let's see, what else have I been doing? Oh, I've been diving into Nier Automata, Become as Gods Edition. I'm really enjoying it. It's definitely a tad weird. There is an edge. There is that Japanese platinum edge. There's that Yoko Taro edge. Obviously, the man is crazy, but at the same time, it's a great game. It looks great, at least on the Xbox One X. Love the combat. Love the character designs. Shockingly enough, soundtrack is fantastic. So I'm having a good time with that. And then I've also started diving into the Prey Mooncrash expansion, which.
Okay.
If you haven't played Prey, if you have played Prey, rather, is what I'm trying to say, this expansion is somehow even better than the main game. And I'm going to write up a very lengthy piece on how. Yeah, and I know that's coming from me, I already love the base game, but it takes everything that worked and then introduces a bunch of new randomized elements, and it's fantastic. I think a lot of people got turned off from the reveal because they thought it was some sort of arcade mode, and it's not. It's a new story expansion that you play as multiple characters and you're solving a mystery, but it has some really unique twist in how you have to solve things. So I really don't want to spoil anything about it, except if you haven't played Prey yet, you need to dive on that, and then more importantly, you need to play this expansion. The peeps at Arcane Austin, they do incredible work. I love it.
Yeah, that's definitely on my playlist. When I'm done with The Witcher, I think I told you guys, like, most of the games I'm going to have lined up for 2018 are all long games, so I need those games in between to kind of,
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so I think Prey might be my next one, and then from there I'll be like Persona 5. Be the next one I jump into.
Nice.
Yeah, everything's 200 hours. Let's do it.
That's what I'm trying to balance out right now. That's why I'm going one small thing and one big thing. The big thing is Nier Automata, because I know that's going to be on my plate for a good bit, chewing at that. But then I'm also doing this expansion at the same time. Try and balance.
I've just completely let myself go. I'm trying to balance between Witcher 3 and Nier Automata, Kingdom Come Deliverance, and
you're being a madman.
Kingdom Come Deliverance is no joke, especially the length of that game. It's yeah.
And then you got Rare Replay on top of that. What's wrong with you? I mean, I'm sorry, Nick, but what's wrong with you?
Well, see, there's a difference. When I play games, I have games that I'm grinding for completions for versus games I'm playing to finish and enjoy. I'm never gonna grind the 100% for The Witcher 3. I'm probably not going to go for the 100% for Nier Automata. I say probably because I haven't looked at how difficult that might be. It looks like it'll be time-consuming, but Kingdom Come Deliverance, that's another one where the completion would take really, really, really long time. And plus, when they added in the DLC, they added a hardcore completion basically achievement, and I struggle enough with the base game. So,
yeah, it's not an easy game to play, especially for the style they made it for. Oh boy.
Mm-hmm. It's a challenge. It's a fantastic game. So, but let's dive into what's been plaguing Twitter this week. So, diversity in video games. This is an issue, apparently, for some people. Now, when we talk about diversity, we see it a lot lately, especially between video games. We're seeing a lot more diversity, but diversity as an issue is really big in Hollywood right now. We're getting past the point of whitewashing actors, and we're starting to get good list of black actors, but there still needs to be progress made. We've seen we're still seeing whitewashing with Asian roles and things like that, and some pretty cringeworthy casting. There's some drama earlier in the week with Scarlett Johansson again. But we're going to gloss over that because I don't think we have too many movie buffs that watch this. So we're going to focus on the gaming aspect of things. So the general consensus and the stereotype I grew up with was that video game players, I'm talking when I was prime, when I bought my 360, what the stereotype that I got from going into my local EB games, the gamers they were between the ages of 14 to 16. They had way much more money than most people had, and they were all living in their parents' basement, and they were all white. That was the demographic that appears to be the gaming demographic. That's what it looked like when I was growing up. Obviously, that's based off where I live and everything else. And now with gaming as widespread it is, and the many different genres and all the different aspects that it covers, it attracts a lot wider of an audience. And it did back then as well. Gaming has been one of the most diverse hobbies of all that I can think of off the top of my head, where it doesn't matter what your sexuality is, your color is. Gaming's been a part of a lot of people's lives growing up, whether it was Mario, going far back as Pong, things like that. Gaming as a whole is reached and touched out to a lot of people. Now, that does not necessarily mean that the industry has adapted well to the diversity of its audience. And now what we're starting to see is a diversity in the people making the games. So, first part of this that we're going to tackle is, how do you guys feel? I just want basic answers. I don't want anything too deep at this point. Mm-hmm. How do you guys feel about playing a character that does not physically resemble or politically resemble your views? Is it okay? Is it fine? Do you care if, like, I'm not going to sit here and if someone's like, yeah, well, I really can't relate to gay character or whatever, we're not going to sit there and call you a homophobe or anything. But do you find if a character doesn't relate to you as a person, is it harder to relate to the story?
No,
not
at all.
No, not at a cursory glance.
No. So
there's no issue.
I'm going to use I'm going to use this as an example because I think this is a really good example. How many people here have played Mafia 3?
I have not played Mafia 3 yet.
I've played it.
But it's on my list.
Too much.
I have not played it. I heard good things about the story, though.
Okay. Yeah. So anyone who knows me knows I am whiter than cream cheese. Okay. Like I'm a stereotypical white dude bro as you can get. Lincoln Clay from Mafia 3 was probably one of the best and most relatable characters that I've ever had the pleasure of playing in a video game. Mm-hmm. I've no relation to the issues he faced because it showed off the rampant racism in that time period, the political issues, and just how bad it was at that current situation at time. I have no compass for that because I was born in the 90s to a typical lower middle class white family. So I didn't have those experiences, but seeing and experiencing those experiences through a video game, even though it's through a video game, it's not giving me real life experiences, but really puts things into perspective. And it was an amazing storytelling device because the game itself was very bland and the gameplay was repetitive, and it was just an atypical open world game.
That's surprising.
But his character kept me invested in that game for the full 40 hours.
Right. And
he was so well written. It went through, you went through his different phases of his anger with everything about how people didn't understand him and didn't understand his motives. And he's a Vietnam vet that is coming back to his hometown, and he's still being treated like garbage because he's black. And it's horrible to watch. And some of it makes you cringe. I've never had a story that I put my controller down and went, wow. Like I've had moments of personal reflection with things like Hellblade and things like that, but it gave me a whole different view on a whole different side of life. And that's from a video game. This isn't a documentary. This isn't an educational film. This is a video game that gave me a whole different perspective on a variety of issues that I myself don't have any personal experience with. And I think that's a fantastic part about diversity in video games, is they can open your eyes to things that either you've never seen, issues that you may not have had to face. And let's face it, there's not anything wrong if you've had an easier time coming up. Everyone has their own struggles and everything, but it's not the same for every person. So being able to see a different person's struggles and challenges and everything else, it really gives you a different sense of character depth.
Right.
And I think when you have more diverse characters, it gives you a different idea about the challenges different kinds of people have. Like, obviously, you know, Eric, you grew up in you grew up in Southern United States, right? You've always been Florida based, or
always been in South Florida.
Yeah, so you grew up being black in South Florida. Sam grew up in South Carolina being white. Jared grew up being white in Calgary, and I grew up being white outside Toronto. All of us. This is the most diverse panel ever.
Thank you for being here.
Excuse us while the three white guys talk about video game diversity. But it gives everyone a different perspective. And I want to ask Eric, mainly because as Vaz said, you're the more diverse person on the panel. And you spent, you started gaming from a young age, so you had to play your fair share of quote unquote 30-year-old scruffy white guys as protagonists.
Right.
What's your thoughts on diversity in video games? Like, where do you stand with it as a whole?
Well, it's funny you say that because, coming up playing those games, I never once said, like, I don't relate. I can't play this game because I don't relate to this. I can't relate to this white grizzled guy, But it's like, at the same time, it's like, that's the whole part of like movies, music, gaming, or whatever. It's all about learning and picking up on different things. Why would you want to cut yourself off and shut yourself off to having a different experience by saying, I can't relate to this, so I can't play it, or I can't experience it? No one says that with movies, But as far as me, I think growing up in South Florida, you kind of, and depending on where you're, the school you go to, where you are kind of in a melting pot of different cultures, especially now. I mean, and the way South Florida is segmented, I mean, you have sections that are very much, certain parts of like, or maybe Florida that I wouldn't go into when I was in high school, and then they make a left and you go into an area where all the buildings are in Spanish, so it's just, diversity has always been kind of a part of the culture here. So it's never really dawned on me to kind of say, well, I can't play as this female character or this character who, maybe like gay or lesbian, which we haven't had a lot of that. We're starting to experience more of it now. But yeah, it's never been like an issue to me, because I like to experience different things. I like to get a different perspective on different things, always have, even me, like I haven't played Mafia 3 yet, but hearing what you said about the character of Lincoln, and I've heard it from other people. I didn't grow up in that era. I have stories of it from my relatives, but if someone can give me an experience of that, through storytelling, I mean, I've dealt with my own issues of race and things like that. So, I don't know. I think the more diverse, the better.
I'm just, before we move on to I'm going to do Sam next. We'll talk to him, but I just want to articulate on that point too. Is do you think, Eric, that video games are getting more diverse because video games now are trying to tackle more complicated issues?
In some cases, I think definitely. And we live in a world now where we have more connection with people through social media and different forms of, media outlets, and everything is very much the 24-hour cycle, right? Where you may have been a little bit more closed off in how you got news and information and things like that. But culturally, we're definitely becoming more diverse, and yeah, so I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. That's kind of, yeah.
I get where you're coming from. Sam, what about you? Because you're around, you and Jared and myself are pretty much the same generation, so to speak, when it comes to video games. Where do you stand on the diversity in games?
Man, give me good games. I'm sorry to do that. It's not something that I overly seek out, nor something that I'm overly concerned by if it happens. Like, I'm just interested in how do I put this? In an enthralling story, in enthralling characters. It's just, if it's an RPG and it lets you make your own character, I mean, obviously that's been a thing for a long time. So it's like, cool, whatever, make whatever you want. Sometimes I made characters that were supposed to look like me, and I tried to emulate what I would do in my decisions. Sometimes the character creators were horrible, and so I just went with the default male look, like in Mass Effect, because if you tried to use the character creator, you'd end up finding the missing link. And you know, it's true. I'm sorry, it's true. The female character creator was great, the male not so much. But sometimes, you know, it's like if I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn, then it's nice getting into Aloy's shoes and, you know, understanding her as a character and stuff like that. Or someone brought up in the chat Lee from The Walking Dead, you know, and that which is great. You know, at least the first season was fantastic with that. So I don't know. It's more about giving me interesting characters and interesting plots than it is anything else.
Yeah, and see, I think that's a key point for a lot of us is I won't go out and buy a game because it's got a gay character, and I'll echo the thoughts. I was talking to my brother about this earlier today. My brother's gay. He's been gay since, God, I think I was like 8 when he came out. But as he said, he won't buy and support a game just because it has a gay character. You have to create an interesting character in itself. Right. He said you can't just have a diverse cast and expect it to be successful and have bad writing and bad gameplay mechanics and be like, well, it failed because of diversity. You've got to have a good story. You've got to, it falls under the same standards, but it's cool that people can find more characters that they can relate to. Now, before we dive further into this, what about you, Jared? Where do you sit with it?
I kind of have to echo what Sam says, because to me it really doesn't matter. But like you said, I kind of grew up in a typical middle class white family that was, you know, fairly well off and that sort of thing. But I was lucky enough that I grew up in a very diverse neighborhood. I actually grew up in very heavy East Indian population. So like being a white person in that sort of a place, I was like, okay, well, these are just regular people to me. I don't really see them as their race. I see them as someone else that speaks a different language. That's just another person. I just want to play a game that is good, and I don't care who the main character is or what's going on or really who the orientation is. It's just if you put out a good quality product, a good quality game that allows me to connect with the character and allows me to almost put myself in their shoes so I can feel what they're going through the story. And kind of like how a good example, the first Last of Us, that to me kind of stood out quite a bit because I was put into the shoes of the main character along with Ellie, and I could kind of connect with both of them because the story was just so well written. And that's really all I kind of care about. Right. Is if it's good. Other than that, like, it's good to have options and all that fun stuff. But at the end of the day, I feel like you should just let the developer do what they want, but also keep in mind of the fan base as well. If you want to create a diverse character, go for it. If you don't, okay, cool. I don't care. Just do something that's fun and something that everybody can enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because honestly, it doesn't matter. If you really think about it, it doesn't matter what color or gender the character is. If the story's not interesting or the game isn't fun, none of that really matters. I mean, we've seen plenty of games like that. And Nick, like you just said, with like your brother, he's like, he's not going to buy a game just because they said, oh, well, the character's gay. There has to be some reason or something that kind of like plays into that, or some, you know, it has to be interesting. Because I mean, we all play as like space marines and superheroes and these different things, but I don't fly, so I don't relate to that. You know, I've never taken a chainsaw gun and gone down into a hole to fight, you know.
And why not?
Right.
Not for lack of try. Not
for lack of try. You know, so
I don't relate to Marcus Phoenix because my chin isn't the size of a boot.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And conversely, I don't relate to Coltrane. I'm not the guy that's like outside like, whoa, come on, baby. That's not me, you know, but it is what it is. But it has nothing to do with like.
There goes the idea of making Eric the Coltrane of the podcast.
Oh, dang it. You're not going to run around yelling, the E-Train runs on whole grain, baby.
You know, If anything, I'm like, man, they went for it on that, didn't they? But no, I mean, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just kind of like silly if you're gonna cut your nose off to spite your face because you say you can't relate.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
See, I never find. Maybe it's just weird. I won't go into details about like how I grew up and like political wise and religious wise and how I was brought up. But the constant message that my mother always taught us was before the old saying of basically don't judge someone until you've walked a mile in their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And basically how I've gone through playing video games is I don't judge a video game character until I've walked the mile in their shoes, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Like I related very strongly to She-Hulk in Saints Row 2, which was my 7-foot behemoth neon green woman that could hit someone with a baseball bat across the street. Like that was one of the most relatable video game characters I ever made when I was 14. But it's just so weird for me when I go on social media and like I'll use The Last of Us 2 as an example because that's what a lot of people are using right now. I am not a huge fan of The Last of Us. I will say this again. I always say this. I'm not a huge fan of The Last of Us because I'm not a huge fan of the gameplay. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite kind of gameplay. I'm not a third-person cover shooter kind of guy in the first place, so it's not my favorite kind of game. The story's good, but I'm not a huge fan of the gameplay. So The Last of Us 2, it looks amazing. I'll probably day one it, but I'm not hugely interested. Now, I said all this before E3. Then I saw the new gameplay with Ellie and the new dynamics they're going for and everything else. And I'm sold on that game. But now there's people that were sold on this game that aren't sold on it because of a kiss scene.
Right.
Which was used as a brilliant use of contrast in the trailer to go from a really lighthearted thing to a dark theme.
Yes.
It was used as a contrasting point, which if anyone did any form of media in high school knows that's one of the most important dynamics if you're making a trailer is to do as much contrast as you can within that trailer. And that's all that was used for.
Right. I mean, I was talking with a couple of other people when we were actually there, you know, and this was at the Sony media booth, and they had some big screens that would cycle through the trailers every now and again. I was talking with some other journalists who were there, and it's like, you know, the main takeaway is not to be whatever nonsense erupted. The main takeaway from that is supposed to be Ellie's not all right. Like you should not be able to nonchalantly snap like that back and forth in two modes of thought, so to speak, and just be okay. Something's wrong here.
Yeah, and see, that was my takeaway from the trailer. Like, I knew with what was going on that there would be a social media hum and ha about. There always is, there always will be. Because the great thing about social media is someone with 2 followers can make a tweet that other people can support, and then it gets blown way out of proportion from that person's viewership base. It's a great thing about social media. I'll say it's a great thing with complete and utter sarcasm. But the fact that some people, that's the only takeaway that some people took from this, it makes me wonder how far back are gamers as a whole. Like, I try not to lump people as cohesive groups, but if you go onto gaming forums and 4G, Reset Era sometimes, there are a large group of people that get really, really angry when more diverse characters come out because they feel it's being forced on them. Like they don't have a choice.
Yeah, you do. You totally have a choice.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, look. Let me interject here and use an example. The Ghostbusters reboot film. People voted with their wallet. I think Sony lost like $80 million on it. You know, so.
And you know what? It's good you brought up the Ghostbusters film because that brings up a very, very good point. If you're going to diversify and add women into the industry, which is fantastic because video games, movies, they're for everyone. Okay? I cannot stress that enough. But can Hollywood specifically stop rebooting classic movies with women and just just write damn good scripts and original movies for women. It's not that hard.
No, but that's too difficult. That's too difficult.
Like I like that Ghostbusters thing. I was sitting there like, why? Well, like, you got 4 decently funny women. Why couldn't you have done a good comedy out of that instead of rebooting a beloved 80s nerd franchise where the main demographic of that fan base is like 40-year-old guys now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just frustrates the hell out of me when there's all these amazing female leads, especially in Hollywood, and they're like, oh, well, we're going to reboot this all-male cast movie with girls, and it'll be amazing and original. I'm like, or you could just write a really awesome script designed for their characters, so it doesn't feel like you copy and pasted them in.
And that brings up a very good point. I don't think it's really been an issue in gaming per se. This is more of a film industry thing, but nonetheless, don't just do something for the sake of doing it. Yes. There needs to be purpose behind it. You know, I'm trying to think of a good example here, but
I have one.
Okay, go ahead. Shoot.
The direction, love it or hate it, Jared, you might back me up on this. Love it or hate it, direction Star Wars is going in.
Okay.
I could argue that there are some, not a lot, but some people are probably mad because the protagonist has become, it's been a split between a guy and a female lead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people will say what they want, you know, like, well, it's not my Star Wars because it's not, you know, it's doing this, and this. But it's like, and, you know, people will say, well, Leia was a strong character. It's like, yeah, Leia was a strong character, but Leia was not the main character. It was always about guys. Guys in their laser swords, you know, doing their thing.
Which is great.
Right.
But yeah, it's in particular, I mean, not to dive into spoilers, but to dive into spoilers, I think The Last Jedi did something great there as well with Rey doesn't have to be, I'll just say it for what it is, connected to something else. It's like, no, she's a strong character who stands on her own because of what she pulled herself up by the bootstraps.
She's a strong, independent woman that needs no man.
Because I'll tell you like this.
For me,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
No, because I'll tell you like this. Like, my daughter, like, she's not really on the Star Wars train yet. Like, she knows certain things just by virtue of being my daughter. So there's,
of course.
So she knows Leia. Yeah, she knows R2. She knows stuff like, she knows Vader. Who doesn't know Vader? Yeah. But the other day when I was watching The Last Jedi, you know, she was running in and out of the room and she kept stopping and she was looking at it and she asked if Rey. She said, "Is that Leia?" And I was like, "No, that's not Leia. That's Rey." And she was kind of just like looking at it like, you know, with a different look. She doesn't care who Luke Skywalker is. All she saw was, you know, this female character, like this Jedi. Like, she stopped specifically for the scene where she and Kylo were in the, you know, the main chamber fighting all, you know, Snoke's guards or whatever in action. Yeah. And she's like, she's mesmerized by the colors and everything that's going on. And then she went on about her business, but it wasn't something where she was like, "Oh, I feel empowered as a little girl," because she just kind of looked at it and went, "Oh, okay," and kept going. But the fact of the matter is, she can look at that and see, you know, she can identify with that.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, and I have a buddy whose daughter is older than my daughter, but, you know, she was going, you know, ape shit trying to find, he was going crazy trying to find a Rey doll because when he took her to see Force Awakens, she basically lost her shit. And she wanted a Rey doll.
Just
you know,
in love with Rey, eh?
Yeah, and think about how many guys and girls saw that and kind of went, "That is cool." And like Sam said, that movie is basically telling you it's okay to move on. It's okay to tell different stories in different ways, because everyone's so pissed because the Star Wars is about the Skywalkers and that's how it's like. You can't be dogmatic about this kind of stuff. There's things that you can move on from. I don't want to turn this into the Star Wars debate, but
no, but it's relevant in terms of what it means, because many of the same complaints have been there. You know, it's the same types of people dredging up those complaints.
Right,
put it that way.
And I had a debate with my buddy the other day, and he said, "Man, you're bringing up some pretty cool points." Like I said, I argue that people are mad at these movies because they did not fix what George Lucas did to Star Wars. So you were looking for these movies to fix, you know. But it's like, let's be honest, these movies have been prequels kind of started this train a long time ago. So
yeah, I mean,
so if we're gonna start,
why are you jumping on the complaint train now? There was plenty of. I'm actually one of the staunch defenders of a lot of things about the prequels, but even I would say, come on.
Yeah, seriously. This isn't new, and so. But the fact of the matter is, I like the fact that they're saying, look, we're in a world now to where we can put a female lead in here as a badass Jedi and move things forward. And guess what? Your Skywalkers are still there if you stop crying long enough to realize it. Kylo is still connected to the Skywalker bloodline.
One of the main two characters in the film still has Skywalker blood, but moving on.
But the fact is, it's like, would that have happened, XYZ amount of years ago? Because it was always still about, the guys in their galaxy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
See,
go ahead, Nick.
I don't know. I've got a really alternate view on Star Wars and the state of Star Wars. I'm one of those people. Like, I haven't enjoyed a Star Wars film since the 80s.
And can we put a pin? Can we do a special podcast just on this? Because we could literally go on this for like an hour and a half.
Actually, you know what? That might not be a bad idea. We should do a Star Wars podcast.
We'll do a 2-hour special, and it'll just be me and Eric clowning you.
No. See, I'm just gonna sit there and like The Last Jedi just hit Netflix, so I'll watch that tonight, and you'll just see my whole feed is just gonna be trash.
And trust me, like Sam, like there are things about The Last Jedi that I don't like. But there's a lot to like.
See, I'm one of those
things I don't like either, but what I love about it vastly outweighs what I dislike.
See, I'm one of those people, like, if you piss off your main fan base with your movie, those movies I genuinely usually enjoy. Because it means you did something outside the box that people did not want. I don't want, like, my problem with The Force Awakens wasn't, like, the diverse casting, or I thought they had some really cool characters in that, but it felt like A New Hope 2.0 was my biggest.
Yeah, and that's J.J. Abrams. That's just what he does. He's the master of,
Man, he's good.
I sold you something bad that you already ate.
Yeah, like I felt like it was like the Diversity Awakens should be like it wasn't a bad thing because the characters were really, really good, and he didn't necessarily do a good job at fleshing out some of the characters.
We went back to a desert planet. Different desert planet.
Oh my God. When I was sitting there on the desert planet and they're like the droid on the desert planet, I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me right now? Like, and like, it took me a while. Like, I watched it the first time, and like Kylo through the first watch, I was just like, I went to school with a dude like this. Like,
it's funny. Like, my buddy said, talked about The Last Jedi. He said that movie was a complete, like, if you think about it, it was trolling.
And it really was.
It was trolling, but for a good reason. It's like it took everything that people bitched about in The Force Awakens, and pretty much they should have had, I can't think of the director's name, they should have had him do the first movie, because he basically took everything JJ said, this is, okay, we're acting like none of that happened.
He's like, yeah, it's like, I set this up wrong.
Yeah,
exactly. Wrong.
Yeah. And all you guys that thought Kylo was trying to be Vader, we took care of that in the first 5 minutes.
But without this turning into a Star Wars podcast, that's what I love about it.
Right.
But reining things back in a bit here, it's like, look, you can't tell me that, not everything should have a woman protagonist. Well, not everything does. You still have plenty of stuff to choose from. Yeah. But it's like when I see like little girls or teenage girls who now want to try and get into cosplay because they want to look like Aloy or something like that. It's like, you can't tell me that isn't cool. You can't tell me that doesn't matter, because it's like, hey, now we've got someone that we can identify with. And I don't feel the need to identify, but some people do. And if they do, if those young girls are, some of that demographic, then good on them for having someone to look up to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, just having more, like, it's disheartening when, like, I never realized it so much before I had kids, but once I had my daughters, I started looking like for female role models, like strong female role models. And like when
we lost Nick.
Uh-oh.
We lost Nick.
I think we did.
Yeah, we lost. Yeah.
But just sort of building on that, you can't tell me it doesn't matter. You can't.
No, it totally matters. Yeah, it totally no. But what your point is absolutely true, man. And if you really think, I don't want to make this thing sound like it's like a whether you want it or not scenario, but there are a lot of women who are trailblazing, and gaining followings in this industry. And we talked the other day about like Alana Pierce and what she may be up to, and beyond, her look. Of course, Alana's a beautiful girl. You get lost in the fact that she knows her shit.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
When she, at the end of the day, you can't knock the fact that she knows what she's talking about. Like she's compelling in her debates and arguments and the things that she can bring to the table.
She can hold her own with Ryan and any of the rest of the crew.
Oh, easily.
Absolutely. And you talk about nerd culture was so like for guys, right? It was like a boys' club, right?
Mm.
But I would argue now. I mean, you have women who will take you to task
easily
on almost any on anime, gaming, movie, comic book,
and that's and that's cool. That needs to be the thing. That's okay. It doesn't mean it's been taken away or anything like that. It just means maybe you need to stay on top of your game if you still want to be the top trivia master or whatever.
Yeah.
That's all it means.
The demographic is almost like 50-50% for 50% male, 50% female. It's dramatically risen over the past 10 and 15 years from being mostly a male-dominated industry to being, like, for gamers themselves, the gamer population has been basically taken over by a lot of women, and I think it's a great thing, and that means there's been changes.
According to NPD, every year, like the gap is getting smaller and smaller. I think it's like 47% women, to however many percent men, 53% men.
Yeah, the difference is
just because. Sorry, go ahead.
Let's say that's okay. I was just gonna say like the difference is so small, but like from my point of view, to me, a lot of this stems from not respecting other people's decisions. Like, I'm not going to respect you for wanting to play this character because I think you're wrong because I feel it's not diverse enough. It's like, okay, well, why don't you just respect that person's decision for enjoying what they enjoy? There's not enough people that actually do that, and there's too many people that go, well, what I feel is more important than what you feel, and you should change your ways to what I feel because I feel that's what's right, even though in reality it doesn't matter because it's what you personally enjoy is what matters the most. And if you feel you connect with, let's like say some random alien in let's say like you connect with the alien Oddworld for freak's sakes, this little weird alien dude. I mean, good for you. Who cares?
Right.
The game, good. And yeah, I just feel like there's not enough respect going on in the world towards these type of people, or towards people that just want to enjoy what they want to enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I wanted to kind of go back, and I was sitting there one day watching. I was watching a YouTube video with Alana when she was explaining, what she was doing, right? And my daughter, she came in like she does, and if I'm looking at something on my phone, she pulls my arms down to see what I'm looking at. And I'm like, excuse me, I tell her. And she says, like, who is that? And I told her who it was, and I told her what she, being that my daughter's getting into video games, and and I always say, like, it's my job to empower my daughter as a man, to empower her to feel like she doesn't have to be excluded from anything. She can be a part of anything, and she can hold her own in what, in a lot of ways is still a male-dominated world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I said, that's Alana Pierce. I said, she writes, she does video game work for a living. She writes and blah, blah, blah. And no, my daughter's 3, but I talk to her as if, she's 16.
She's smart.
And
she's very
exactly. Smart. And I said, and she plays video games for a living. I put it on that level. So my daughter's like, she does? Like kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, that is something you could do. As much as she understands jobs and living and stuff like that. I said, but as she gets older, those are the things I want her to see. Like the sky's the limit on what you want to do. And there's nothing that should be in your way to say, you know, you can't do it. And that's the thing when people who are in positions of power, you know, try to be inclusive and say, and make it okay. I don't know why people get so offended and so threatened that they need to stand in front of it. Like what is going on in your wired connection in your head that makes you feel threatened by somebody, you know, being included?
Yeah, exactly. Why are you so insecure about yourself that you have to lash out at others for their preference, basically? Like, it makes absolutely no sense. And it's really just a form of lashing out for being upset, for being down on yourself, basically, in my mind. I think people are just, they hate themselves so much that they have to take it out on others, and the anonymity, whatever, the anonymous wall that you can hide behind on the internet, I think really also affects that too. You know, it like intensifies their ability to lash out, because it could be multiple people.
Oh yeah, you can be
the world too, right?
You can be a thumb thug when you know there's, you know, Ethernet cable between you and the rest of the world. You know, but
why? But why are you doing this? Why?
I don't. But Sam, let's use the example of Gears. I mean, we talked, you know, for how long about the story of Gears 4. What we found interesting, what we felt should change, and then coming up to E3, seeing what they're trying to do, you know, with Kate as a character, right?
Right,
and
exactly.
and then seeing like the backlash on that. And here's the thing that I thought about. I'm pretty sure you thought the same way. I never thought, you know, Kat should have been replaced just because she was a woman. I said, no, she's infinitely more interesting than JD was.
Yeah, and Rod, well, the thing is, what I find funny about it is Rod Ferguson even came out and had said that. I mean, I would say admitted, except it was planned. He explicitly stated in an interview recently, it was really cool. He was talking about the coalition and everything they're doing and hiring right now. But he said he compared Gears of War 4 to the latest Mad Max, where, sure, Mad Max is in the title and he's an awesome character and all that. Well, he compared JD to Mad Max and saying that just because he's cool and capable, really, it's Furiosa that handles the story. She's the focal point of the story, and Max is just there to give her a gun. Max is there to provide fire.
Side character.
Well, no, not a side character. That's the wrong way of going about it. But what I'm trying to say is, like, he's not the focal point, even though he's in the title. And what Rod was saying is, they felt the same way. They always felt that it was going to be not handing over the torch, but rather slowly reintroducing the audience to this cast, and then towards the end, it becomes clear, wait a minute, this isn't really about JD. This is about Kate. This is about her family, or her lineage, rather.
Right.
Moving forward from there. Now, I will say, I don't think I've seen as strong of a backlash with Gears. Certainly not compared to a lot of the other stuff.
No.
But at the same time, I think that's probably because Gears has had, you know, tough women in combat roles probably since, what, 3? Either 2 or 3. So it's like there's a history there in the franchise, to be fair.
Right. Yeah, and like Micah just said, you know, he thinks there'll be like 2 story parts. I think they're going to do that too. I really think they're trying to bring this game, and Sam, you mentioned this, back to the roots of Gears of War.
2 story parts. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I hadn't even considered that, but that makes perfect sense now that I'm thinking about it.
I definitely think there'll be something going on.
Co-op. Right.
There'll be something going on with Kate and Del, but then there'll be something going on back with Marcus and JD. And maybe what we'll get is something that we talked about too, is playing up more of that disconnect that he and his father have, which could give more weight to his character.
Exactly. Because, I mean, if you look at him in the trailer, I've probably watched that trailer 30 times. He's obviously changed. Like, I didn't even recognize him at first.
A lot of people didn't. Some people were like, that was JD. I'm like, yeah, that was JD.
Yeah, I mean, I recognized him, but it took me a good 10, 15 seconds. Right. You know, it wasn't immediately at first glance. It's like he and his dad's swapped a beard or something. And something's going on with his arm now. I'm not sure what's up with that, whether it's injured or infected. But yeah, the more I'm thinking about it, thank you for that, Micah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Have the story go with Kate in one area and then flash back and maybe play a couple of missions with JD and Marcus. I like that. I really like that, actually.
Yeah, and we've seen that kind of thing happen in in Gears, but you know, again, it's not, if people feel like, you know, what they may be getting ready to try to do, and this is for almost anything, and not just Gears, is forcing it on you, forcing it down your throat, then you may need to step back and like think about, you know, entertainment media. or media as a medium in general. Like, do you get that kind of feeling of pushback when you go to a movie, you know, or something, you know, to that effect? You know, if you're reading a book, you get that kind of feeling if the character is a strong female lead, or, you know, it's about that, you know?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Or, here's another example. I don't know if you guys remember this when The Hunger Games came out.
Oh yeah.
That one was like, it was deep for a while there when people were really pissed about I can't remember the character name now. But she no, not Katniss. It was the supporting character, the little girl. She was the little black girl in the movie.
Rue?
Rue, yeah. Rue. People were pissed because people expected Rue to be a white girl.
Which I never got that when she's literally described as black in the books at one point. I never understood that outcry.
There were people backlashing about that. I'm like, did you guys read the book?
Yeah. You know, it's like at a certain point, I'm all for getting, you know, if you want to get angry because they did change up a character, that it was different than whatever, but it's like, at a certain point, you need to actually consult the source material. And I don't know.
Like, I'll throw in this one as me and Ivan talked about this, and it was me, Ivan, and James on an episode of the Multiverse Show at one point, and we were talking about fan casting for our favorite roles, and people kept getting agitated with me because I kept trying to put Idris Elba in every role.
He could play every role. He could play James Bond.
He's a good actor.
Well, that's the thing is, like, when people are like, "Oh, Idris Elba could be the next James Bond," and people are like, "James Bond can't be black." I'm like, if James Bond was ever to be black, he'd be Idris Elba.
Hell, you know what's funny? Card. People said when Daniel Craig took the role, James Bond isn't blonde.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. At a certain point, it's not so much. I don't think, and maybe I'm just being hopeful here, it's not out of hatred, it's just people are stupid and they don't like change. And don't get me wrong, I think change just for the sake of change can be a bad thing, because we've seen how some of Marvel's comic shakeups have not exactly panned out.
Right.
I know, Eric, you probably know some of the ones I'm referring to, like Miles Morales was well received over time.
But initially, now Miles is the man.
Yeah, now he is. Initially not.
Oh, man. People were like, no.
No. But by contrast, on the other hand, you remember how well the Lady Thor went over?
Not well at all.
No. And you know what? Because to be fair, it wasn't well written at all.
Right.
The entire crux of the character was men are bad. Men are bad. Have we mentioned today that men are bad? And I'm not joking. That's almost verbatim. Right. And so that's why it sucked. And the worst thing is, that should have been the easiest one to do because Thor's power was tied to Mjolnir and it was more passing down the hammer. That should have been handed to you on a platter, but what can you do? I digress.
Well, it's like me laughing at, Spider-Man Homecoming when Donald Glover shows up. So, like, there's a specific reason he's in this movie, and it's basically to say, it's like to flaunt it in the face of the people that bitch when it was rumored that he was going to be Spider-Man.
Pretty much. Yeah, he pretty much just showed up just to show up.
Right. Yeah, But, a lot of it, like you said, it's about change. People hate change. You have to take people, kicking and screaming across, the line of change on certain things, right? Because I even think back and, taking in a video game, I can literally remember people being a little bit miffed when they heard that we were going to wireless controllers on consoles. Or even when, the idea of hard drives were happening. Who
would argue against the hard drive? I don't get that one. I really don't.
Dude, I remember people being like, I need my memory card because I can take it to my friend's house and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I remember when I got the Xbox 360 and they came out with those wireless internet adapters.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a bunch of people getting uproared at my GameStop about them selling them because they're like, people can hack my game through the Wi-Fi, and then like there's things people say, and then upon reflection, 10 years later, you go, "Wow, I'm stupid."
Dude, I'm telling you, people can find anything to be upset about if it feels like. If they feel there's a change happening to it. But it's like Sam said, not every change is a good change, but some change makes sense,
Exactly, and it's like, because the topic is diversity, right? So we can address the stupid examples of when people, go about trying to make that happen the wrong way. One example that comes to mind for me is The Witcher 3. CD Projekt Red was attacked, grilled by a couple of big websites and a couple of certain female developers because about 99% of the cast is white. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, but this is supposed to be an idea of Eastern Europe in a fantasy setting, but this is obviously supposed to be Eastern Europe with maybe some Irish, Scottish, Viking influence in, the Skellige Isles or stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's the entire idea. The books were the same way. And so I don't know. I don't get complaining about that because that's intentionally done by design.
Yeah, well, you can look at all the drama that got drummed up against Warhorse Studios for Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yeah,
because they were like, well, there was African American people during this time frame, and Varva straight out came up and said, yeah, but they were all slaves. Do you really want the only black, only black people in our games being in chains? Like, that would have been a major issue. Like, you gotta find the line, and like, I give them credit because if they had come out with that game and the only black characters were all slaves.
Well, and here's the funny thing, but you're not going to see anybody bitching about something like Red Dead Redemption because you didn't see a lot of black cowboys in there, but a lot of cowboys in the West were black.
Oh man, all I can think of when you say black cowboys, all I can think of is Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
Like, all I can think of is a black sheriff. That's all that came to my mind.
Oh no! Or when he goes up to the townswoman, he's like, "Good morning, ma'am. Isn't it a lovely morning?"
Oh god, yeah. See, that's the thing, though. Is like,
but you won't get anybody bitching about it, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, whitewashing is a huge issue. Like, I get that, especially in films, it has been an issue. And seeing more diverse roles cast and more people getting these roles. But the thing is for some of these diverse roles, you have to find the talent. And with these roles being whitewashed for so long, there's a lot of these actors still need to be discovered. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we're at this point where Donald Glover's going to play every serious black role now because he's just amazing at literally everything.
Yeah, that's true.
He's amazing at acting, his music. I 100% am whatever that man is doing. I am for it.
He's actually a pretty funny stand-up comedian too.
And the thing is, I've been following him since Community and his rap and everything else.
I remember like growing up and like watching Community and being like, man, this kid's pretty funny. And then it was like I heard his rap and I'm like, whoa, this guy's like, wow. And then I was like, wow, he is like he's one of those rare talents where like he puts his mind to something, he gets it done, and he deserves all the credit. Like, I'm actually interested in going and seeing Solo because I'm like, I want to see how you handle that role.
Yeah, because he's one of those actors where most of the things that he does, you go, I like him for who he is and how he has kind of accomplished himself in this industry. You almost want to just support him and everything because you also know everything he's done is really good.
Yeah.
Well, I would say he was really good in Solo. So maybe once you guys see Solo, maybe that's when we should do the Star Wars related.
Probably. We can climb down. Because you and I have both seen it. And I think we pretty much agree that we've pretty much liked every Star Wars film that's come out since the Disney buyout, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. So
Solo is the only one I haven't seen yet. So
I'll put a black mark and say I actually enjoyed that in between one, Rogue One.
Rogue One was good.
It was good.
Rogue One did us a huge favor. Rogue One actually reminded us, as opposed to what some of the prequel stuff did, as to why Vader is feared in the universe.
Mm-hmm. It did more in 45 seconds than. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I know, and this is, and for people who have not had the time to go back and watch like Clone Wars or watch Rebels, you get these flashes of Vader, type of things, because I'd argue, I told my buddy this, I said, I'm not as pissed or as upset with, The Last Jedi or anything like that, because I watched all the Clone Wars stuff. I watched Rebels, and those stories were infinitely better than what some of the movies can do. And of course, to their credit, they have the time to flesh out things because they're series.
Of course, they can do something over an arc, over 10, 12 episodes. But it's not kid stuff either. The last of the Clone Wars is like some really dark stuff.
Yeah, same thing with Rebels. Rebels was really lighthearted in the first couple of seasons, and then by the time they got my God.
Both those shows, they change dramatically as you go through. Because, like you said at the very start, it kind of seems a little childish and kiddish, but when you actually follow the story through it, you go, "Wow, this is really in depth," and "Whoa, this is starting to get really twisted and dark, and this is getting really serious." What happened?
And again, we'll talk like diversity. I know she's alien, but she's female, but Ahsoka Tano.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as time went on, she became a huge fan favorite. You know,
absolutely, because she's interesting and because she's a capable character, but she's also flawed.
Exactly.
And the flaws, that's something else. I was talking with my mom actually, since she's playing through The Last of Us, about why Joel and Ellie. I mean, all the characters in the game are great and they're interesting, but Joel and Ellie in particular, it's because they're very flawed. If you go back, and if you haven't played that game in a while, if you go back and watch some of the cutscenes, it's like they're far from perfect. Like Joel in particular is not really a good guy when you really get down to brass tacks.
Nope.
But he's just out there doing what he needs to do in the situation, and you can kind of tell he has almost a very troubled and tortured past from when everything started in the first place, right? Like the whole infection and everything started off in the first game. Like you want to know what happened from after his daughter's death to the point where you first see him again in the game. You go, what happened to you?
Yeah, and
who hurt you?
And I know, like Nick said, Last of Us didn't really grab him, but I don't think anybody can look at the beginning of that game and not have a feeling about it.
Oh, dude,
it still gets me.
See, I think that's the thing for me is like that climax so close to the start. And then the rest of the game just didn't live up to that till pretty much the end for me.
Yeah.
Which it made.
I think we have to end the podcast now.
Can we boot the man off the show? Is that possible?
See, whenever I start talking blasphemy about The Last of Us, my internet goes offline. So
it's not just Last of Us; it's also Star Wars. You pile the blasphemies on, the Spanish Inquisition would be awed at what you do. It's really something to behold.
Yeah,
I'd finish The Witcher and give it a 7 out of 10.
Oh.
Yeah, well, we already gave it Game of the Generation on Multiverse, so yeah.
But no, like
I mean, you're asking for it from the group from the geek gods, man.
Hold on, I'm just gonna get some popcorn. I'll be right back.
The nerd gods are gonna come down and rain on you, man.
What are you talking about? Sam's whole family's in the chat, and they'll massacre me 4 years later.
No, you want Micah at your neck? Insult Neo.
I haven't played it yet. I'll get there. Don't worry. It's me and Ivan's goal in life to insult everything everybody loves.
I think Micah and Joseph will actively hunt you.
They'll hire ninjas to come after you.
Oh boy.
They've got contacts.
All right,
Team Ninja's just slipping them a 20, make it happen.
Right.
All you're seeing is me opening up a notepad on my computer, slander Neo on that podcast.
But so yeah, it's like I don't really know what else to say except for the fact that forced diversity is a problem. It absolutely is, but it's with disregard to a few specific examples, I don't think it's as big a deal as the internet whiny babies make it out.
Yeah, right. There's better examples of it being amazing. You want to know a great, amazing, diverse cast that no one ever talks about, which I will never shut up about. And no, it's not Mafia 3 because I won't shut up about that either. Wolfenstein 2.
Oh man, Wolfenstein.
What do you mean no one talks about it? Plenty of people talk about it for good reason.
Yeah, that's what I mean though. It's like
we can't help that Nudniks ignore the game.
Yeah. It's not a first party Sony game, so it doesn't count as a single player game. Me and Sam have had this conversation.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot.
Yeah, so it doesn't count. But no, it tackled diversity in such a great way, and it presented complex characters with complex motives, and just feel like that game left me I felt emotionally damaged.
Hey, weren't Nazis offended? Like, are we including them?
No, I care for a lot of people's feelings, but there's a line.
They actually, they were like, "What? People don't care about how we feel." No, not really.
Yeah.
That's what kind of blew my mind when that whole that Wolfenstein ad campaign came up, and they were like, "Well, kill Nazis," and then you go into the comment section, people are like, "Well, I feel attacked." I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, it's like Nazis used to be the go-to villain that you could just dunk on, because it was like, no matter what, it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what your opinion is on what, it's guaranteed that you hate Nazis. And it's like, even that has been taken from us.
You thought that was a general consensus worldwide around, but apparently not anymore.
Hey, what are you talking about? If me and Sam sat down and made a 1980s action film, the toss-up between villains would be evil big Russian guy or a Nazi from leftover from World War II. Those are like your villain options in 1980s action movies.
Pretty much. I mean, even Rocky with Ivan Drago, which,
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's communists and Nazis. We're allowed to just hate and dunk on those for no good reason, right?
Yeah,
right.
That's fine.
That's why I love Metro, because it lets you gun down both Nazis and commies.
Hey, oh my God! Two birds with one stone.
Oh, that's
I saw a line at Nazi feelings. Like, screw that. Not looking out for me.
I have a general consensus of not care. I try to be, considerate of other people's feelings, but there's just some groups of people where I'm just like, shut up.
Right.
Especially when you're talking about a group that's getting offended. Oh, we shouldn't kill Nazis. Yeah, but you guys want to annihilate a whole group of people, though. That's like your whole thing. So it's offensive if I say people should kill you. It's not a complicated subject, but apparently it is.
So there you go. For diversity in gaming, we draw the line there. If you wanted to know where the line was,
I'm waiting for a PC developer to make a game where it's an RPG and you play as a Nazi. I'm waiting for it. Waiting for it. It will happen. It'll be offensive. It'll sell a bunch. Steam will pull it. The developers will make a ton of money. It'll be a sad state of things.
I could see it.
But I mean, you can write an interesting game trope and story around that.
Yeah, you
could. Actually, I was gonna say, like, you can laugh at it, Nick, but I've actually argued for a long time that a fantastic World War II game, since there's way too many of them focused on this specific couple of fronts, would be to have you play as a conscripted German soldier who tries to abandon the line or has to figure out how to get away during the last couple of weeks.
A disenfranchised German officer.
You did have that, though. But that's historically accurate. You had that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it could make for a very interesting, game.
I just don't know how with how sensitive we are as a media right now, whether or not that would be.
That media would have a field day with it,
I can already see the Polygon headline in my head.
Sensitivity is at a 9 out of 10 right now.
Man.
And let's talk conversely. I mean, before we begin to wrap up or whatever, but we're talking about the protection of the diversity, but there are people out there who abuse it.
Yeah, absolutely,
and definitely try to cram things down everyone's throat.
The people attacking The Witcher. That's the example I brought up there.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Eric.
No. I was just throwing that out there.
It does exist. It absolutely does exist. I just don't think, as a general rule, that it exists to the extent the internet demagogue believes it exists.
Well, see, there's there's this small little section of Reddit that's like, all females are evil. They shouldn't be in our games. And then there's a small section of Reddit that's also like, females need to be everything.
No, that's Tumblr.
Oh, sorry, Tumblr. Damn it. I forgot. That's edgy 14-year-old Central. I forgot.
Well, as people like to put it, do developers have a certain agenda? And I think, well, maybe some do, but it seems like the fan bases have a way more of agenda than what other developers have.
I think what people are starting to see with developers and like everyone's like, why are they all of a sudden diversifying? I'm like, have you seen the teams and how much they've changed? I remember Romero, who made Doom and was like head of ID Software. I'm not sure if he's still with ID Software or not. I'm not sure if he's retired yet or whatnot, but he made a comment a year or two back, and he said it was amazing because his wife worked on the game on Doom with him and everything else. And he said it was so awesome to see how much ID Software had changed over the years because they were one of the first studios that started hiring a lot more women way before it was like the trendy, cool thing to do. And he said it was awesome to see so many different people making so many different types of video games. Because when he started making video games, it was the stereotype 30-year-old white guys that were making video games. There was a few girls and there was some diversity, but you look at the teams that make up Ubisoft, Squeenix, all these teams, there's a huge mix of women, people from different cultures. Like Ubisoft's big thing, if I'm not sure if everyone remembers the little pre-blurb behind the Assassin's Creed games, is this was made by a diverse team with varying political, religious, and views. And like that, yeah. And like it's just how it is. It's like it's as the industry gets more diverse, we're gonna have more diverse characters because these developers are gonna want to make characters that they feel close to, and people do feel close to characters they can relate to. And the easiest way to make a character you relate to is make a character that shares your views, maybe your appearance, things like that. And that's just all that we're seeing is people are making the games they want to make. And if that's a bad thing, well, fuck me. That's all I gotta say on that. Like, I have absolutely no problem of it. God damn it, I played a game on PC back on early access a couple of years back where you played a sentient bicycle, for God's sakes. And it was like this emotionally gripping story of a bicycle for 4 hours.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man, we live in a world where people make games about being bred.
Man, what about Goat Simulator?
Hey, Goat Simulator was like the story game of this generation.
Games out there. I love all their DLC content and stuff. They know it's Goat Simulator, but they run with it. Then it's just
Goat Z, all the Payday parody DLC,
Goat Simulator edition. What?
Yeah, it was fantastic. But all in all, I think we can collectively say, it's a good thing. The more, the better. Mm-hmm. It'll be better off in the long run. Now, so that we can wrap things up here and let you guys get going and let Sam eat before his next 2-hour podcast. Is Sam even here? Did Sam fall asleep?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. Making sure.
I was talking like 5 minutes ago, dude.
And Sam does not sleep. Let's keep
it 100. I'll put an article pending at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'll be like, hey, when you get up in the morning, can you get that published? What do you mean published? So we did a little gamer score run last month. Which, me being the all sense of timing, put right smack at the dab start of E3.
Yeah, I thought about it. I was like, this might not have been the best time to do a gamer score run.
I mean, what can I say? Well done. I don't think you could have picked literally a worse time, Nick. No.
Yeah. That score, man, Eric.
But no, look, hey, that does not take away from what Eric did. Like, that was impressive numbers. What did you end with? 10,000?
Yeah, I think it was 10, 10.5, 10.6, something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, that does not take away from that by any stretch of the imagination.
I
would have still had to have pulled out all the stops.
Yeah, the catalog of games, you got to get that amount. Jeez.
Yeah, actually, Eric was actually pretty close to my highest monthly total. I think my highest monthly total in one go, I think, was 17K. And let me tell you, there was some bad games in there.
and that's one of the reasons I'm crippled in this is I will not bring myself to play a bad game for Gamerscore. Cannot make me do it.
I suffer from the same illness that Rand has. It's like, ooh, there's a $3 indie game I can get 1,000 Gamerscore out of in 3 hours of painful gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes you start. There are games that I would not even think about. You start to research, and you're like, but that led me to like another thing. And I said maybe we can have a topic on this because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Ivan, shout out to Anchorman, he's saying, you might remember this. He said this about a year and a half ago. He said, if you don't have, and I'm sure he was trolling, but he said if you don't have XYZ amount of gamer score, you can't really consider yourself an Xbox gamer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was trying to make that a thing.
Right. And I'm sure the people who really think that way and feel that way. And I'm like, there was a time, and I would say we can probably label this like in a gaming way, like, you know, before this or after this. There was a time that was legit. Like in the days where you had to grind to get certain things, and you only got pins, you know, for your effort. Like, you know,
now
1,000.
You go back to the Xbox Arcade days.
The problem is the indie games that make it super easy to get platinums or to get 1,000 gamer score have completely thrown that for a loop.
Yeah,
that's the issue. Back in like even I would say so far as like 2012 or 2013, you could still use that for an argument.
Because we live in a world now where we have the Telltale world, we have the Life is Strange world, and people keep those in their arsenal for the gamer score run, the gamer score boost, or whatever. So
exactly.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard to really say, to measure. Exactly. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from anybody's gamer score. Like, you still put the time in.
Of course. But
it is a thing that you can. Yeah, the 1,000 gamer score world now, you can definitely cheese.
Exactly. It's like now it depends on what kind of game. Did you get 1,000 gamer score in Telltale's Game of Thrones, or did you get 1,000 gamer score in Dishonored 2? A little bit different.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have a friend of mine, and he only has 50,000, I think, but he's got every Gears 100%ed. Right. He's got every Halo 100%ed. He's got every Forza 100%. Anything first party Microsoft 100%ed. Yeah, and those are time consuming, nonetheless challenging.
Yeah, they're not easy to get 100% on any of those games, really.
I mean, look at The Witcher.
Damn.
Yeah, Witcher's another challenging one. Like, I took pride in completing Fallout 4 within the first week of release. I had that 100%ed in the first week.
Damn.
I'm trying to think like my claim to fame in terms of that world. I think getting the God of War Platinum within the first 5 or 6 days was probably one of mine. In terms of the last couple of years, that was pretty nice.
Mine was just Halo 3 in general, just taking the time to get Halo 3 to 100% completion, and then some with all the multiplayer achievements on top of that afterwards. So I'm sitting at like almost 1,400 on that.
I'd say my biggest completion so far has been this generation as a whole, because I came into this generation with about 40,000 gamer score and not playing a lot of games, only playing multiplayer games. And I'm at 168 now. I've gone up I got my Xbox One in 2014, so I'm just under 4 years, I've gone up 120,000 gamer score.
I've been stuck at 80,000 for 2 years.
and here's the thing: not everybody, chased achievements, because here's Nick, you came in a lot later than I did, right? I mean, I've been on Xbox Live for, I think my record says 12 years now, and I'm just now at 80,000 gamer score. But if you go through and look at everything I played over that time period, I just wasn't somebody that was chasing.
You and me too. A lot of us that started, if you started on the 360 era, those arcade titles chewed up a lot of our gaming time, but they were only worth 200 gamer score.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
You get a 3-point gamer score. And I have a 9 stuck at the end. I need a 1-point gamer score or something.
Man, don't even talk to me about that. I can't remember what game it was on 360. It gave me a 2 gamer score achievement for starting the game, and then it gives you the other 3 if you 100% the game. I can't remember which one it was.
I'm glad that they knocked that off, because that was
I know. It's driving me nuts for years.
Overcooked did that to me recently. I was playing Overcooked, and I'm like, really? We're doing this in 2018? Huh?
Yeah, but at least the 100% completion's 6 hours. That game's
that's not as bad, but the point remains.
Yeah.
So Eric clocked in, I think, just close to 11,000, if not 11,000 this month. I tried in the last 2 days. I only managed to get myself up to 4,400, I think. Rage was at 1,000, and Sam was working on E3 stuff. So
all you guys were. I mean, you guys were really hustling,
Oh yeah.
So as a little thing, Eric's going to get. We'll DM about this. Eric's got a $25 value voucher for whichever console he chooses.
But see, that's the thing. I don't feel like we had even footing.
No, don't worry. I took care of this. And Rage and Sam will be getting consolidatory prizes of 15.
You didn't have to do that, man. I appreciate it, man.
And we will be kicking this back into gear in September when the news really dries up.
Sounds like a plan to me.
So, I want to shout out Game. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to shout out Game Pass for this type of stuff, man.
Oh, man.
Oh, dude, Game Pass. There's some great gems in there. Like, yes. I was scrolling through there just yesterday morning, and it's like, if any of you guys want to play, hit me up. They got Soul Calibur 2. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, yeah.
That's in there. And by the way, I will be day oneing 6 because, I mean, I have to represent.
Dude, I was watching that girl footage, man.
It was good. The other guy beat me, but I argue and I stress that was a fight stick, and I have not used a fight stick before that in years. So me winning one round was, prize enough for me.
Right.
But it looks so good. It controls so well.
It looks fantastic from what we saw, like at E3, but can't imagine my hands-on. And like I liked, what was it, the Soul Calibur 4 on the 360.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that one. That was great because that was my first dive into the actual Soul Calibur series. But this one looks really good. I'm not much a fighter guy, but yeah, this one looks fantastic.
Soul Calibur is like one of my favorite fighting game series. So yeah, I'm definitely hyped, and the fact that Geralt's going to be in there is awesome because he fits perfectly in that world,
Oh yeah, he's a perfect fit. It makes perfect sense. And as well, so yeah, if anyone wants to throw down with me on 2, practice and warm up a bit before it comes out, I'll be day oneing 6 as well.
There you go. And that's why I was able to recommend Late Shift. Would I have bought that game? Maybe down the road somewhere, but being in Game Pass, I was like, but beyond the fact of getting the gamer score from it, I enjoyed it. That's why I recommended it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So I would definitely say, take it for a ride, man. Like play some of those outcomes or whatever. It's really interesting.
Yeah, so I'll get you guys to DM me your console of preference. Sam and Rage get Wii U vouchers.
Oh, now we've got problems.
Oh, man.
No, actually, that isn't
even work. The other day.
Yeah, they just shut the eShop down. That's literally less than worthless. That's not worth the plastic.
Wait, did they shut
on?
You guys settle down. They shut the Wii. They shut the Wii.
But still, the Wii U was back compatible with the Wii, so that still takes out like half the catalog.
Man, because they told me, they said jump in and get as much stuff as you can now because it's gone.
Yeah, look, don't worry. I'll talk to Anchor and see if he can, since he's an Ouya influencer, maybe he'll hook you guys up.
Oh, jeez.
Let's keep on coming, man.
That's good. All right, sounds good. I can use my doorstop.
So, just to wrap things up, thanks for everyone for tuning in to another episode. We'll be back next week. And for people that may have missed it, if you go on to the Gaming Perspective Twitter account and my account as well, there's a giveaway pinned for Crash Bandicoot The Insane Trilogy, which we are giving away. Giveaway will be drawn on episode 18 of the podcast. So all you have to do is retweet and follow to enter, and you can win yourself a free copy of Crash Bandicoot on your platform of preference, whether it be Nintendo Switch, PC, Xbox One, or PlayStation.
Nice.
Anything else from you guys? Anything people need to know?
No, man. No.
I finally wrapped up all my E3 impressions. I thought they were never going to end. But, you can find a thread of them, all 16, on my Twitter profile, and I'll be retweeting a couple of those to further spam your Twitter feed. So you please enjoy. Please look forward to that. I'm also working on a few other things, including impressions of Moon Crash, the Prey expansion, some thoughts on Nier Automata, and some thoughts on the big 3 console makers now that E3 is about a month behind us. So, as Square Enix would say, please be excited.
Oh my god. This man did not just reference Squeenix in a hype for Sam, we're gonna have that words about you. God damn it. So yeah, as always, thanks for tuning into the Gaming Perspective podcast, an affiliate of the Inner Circle Network. You can find all your latest gaming news from almost all of us except for Eric, but soon. Part of the crew, part of the ship, my friend. Anyone remembers that from Pirates of the Caribbean? Yeah, so you can find all your gaming news information there. I'll let these guys do some outros about where you can find them and where you can find their content. Sam?
You can find me on Twitter at Samuel Talbert. You can find the stuff I write on tickgamesnetwork.com.
Cool. All right.
I keep it simple.
God damn it. I'm sitting there trying to text people on my phone while Sam's doing his outro, and he keeps it that short.
Surprise.
Rage? Jared, damn it.
Either one works. I go by both. Well, people can find me on Twitter at RageVirus_X or at TickGamesNetwork.com.
Fantastic. And Eric?
Yeah, you can find me tooling around Twitter and also on Wednesday nights on Brat Podcast at 9:00.
Right on. Eric's our local troll whisperer. All right, so thanks for tuning into episode 15 of the Gaming Perspective podcast. We'll be back next week with a big episode. More details will be coming on Twitter Monday afternoon, so stay tuned for that. I hope everyone has a fantastic Saturday. We will catch you all next week.